Oh God. Oh God, Omar, I'm in trouble, man.
Sarah, what's wrong?
Okay, I was making out with my grandma's fixer last night, and he's fucking dead. I woke up and he's dead.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. And you know why it's okay, Omar?
Why is that?
Because I actually know the perfect person to ask about this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Omar, this is a very special episode of Riverdale Season 6, the podcast.
It is a very, very special episode of Riverdale Season 6, the podcast.
Because I don't have to be worried about the fact that I'm apparently toxic. Making out with me will kill you, because we have the most qualified person on the planet to help me work through this. Please welcome our very special guest, Nikolai Witschl, a.k.a. Dr. Curdle Jr.
Hello, Miss Kaplan. Mr. Najam. How are you?
A dream has come true.
My new wow! I now have a new voicemail message.
We're so good, and Nikolai, thanks so much for joining the pod.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course.
This is absolutely wild. I'll go ahead and jump on this grenade really quick. The show, huge fans of Dr. Curdle Jr.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad. So glad to hear.
It's going to be embarrassing if you listen to the episodes as they start coming out, because you're actually our favorite character. You're probably
That's amazing.
You're probably tied with like Britannia. It's Dr. Curdle Jr. and Britannia we love so much.
Great. Good. I'm glad I can evoke such joy through such darkness.
Yeah.
A question that we ask our guests, this one might be a little unnecessary for you, but have you seen the show Riverdale?
Yes. Yeah. I haven't seen every episode. As I was going in it, I definitely watched enough to make sure I knew what was going on, because things change very quickly and in very sporadic directions. So to make sure that I knew what was going on with the show so that I could best support the story as it was being told. But yeah, I've been a fan of Archie comics for a long time. So getting onto the show was really lovely, being able to see this new world and version that they were building and to be able to contribute my small part to it.
Oh my gosh.
Don't be so modest. You're the linchpin of this small New York town.
And whatever pocket universes come out of that. If you do have any questions for any episodes that we reference that maybe you're not as familiar with, you can ask our producer Azriel, because we have an ongoing segment that runs the entire length of the episode called Ask Azzy. How's it going, Azzy?
It's going good. I'm very excited to be here and chat about this episode of Riverdale with the one and only Dr. Curdle Jr.
So for reference, Nikolai, we have been burning through these episode recordings. I've had this idea for a podcast called Riverdale Season 6 for a couple of years now. And I mentioned it to Omar like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And Omar was like, wait, I love Riverdale. And I was like, do you want to co-host with me? Omar said yes. And as soon as someone agreed to co-host this podcast with me, I was like, I'm going to make it happen right now. This is my opportunity. I'm about to lose it. And we've spent the last 2 weeks watching season 6 and recording these episodes. And if you were wondering, it is only a season 6 rewatch podcast. We're not in season 6 of a Riverdale rewatch podcast. This is season 1. And Azzy had never seen Riverdale before. So she's been watching with the pod. And Azzy, what's your understanding of the character Dr. Curdle Jr.? Only from season 6.
Classic creepy medical examiner, coroner, with some like slight like kind of witch doctor intonations.
That's right. That's right. If you've seen season 6, then you would have started with the toad.
With the toad,
yeah.
And we actually did wanted to ask you about that, because when we discussed that episode, it was sort of an open question for us. Was that scripted, or did you bring in a toad?
Oh, I wish I had a toad available as a prop to bring in. No, that was definitely scripted. They had professionals bring in a toad that we were all like nice and safe with and careful with to make sure that the toad was treated as well as the actors.
That's great.
That's
Have you kept in touch with the toad?
Yeah.
I try to follow him on Instagram as much as possible, I guess.
You've been in the show since season 3, right?
Yes.
And I know that you, as we were just briefly discussing before we started recording, but like Omar and me, you also are an improviser. And
Yes.
how much room is there in this show, especially as a character like Dr. Curdle, who's like such a fun, rich person? Is there any room for improv on your end, or is it very tightly held to the script?
I think there's always room for improv. One of the benefits of film and TV is that you record things with takes. So you want to make sure that there's variation in those takes. Like, you got to be consistent to make sure that your continuity is correct.
Right.
But you can have enough variation to give the editors choices to narrow things down to. That being said, I didn't tend to improvise too much as Dr. Curdle Jr. Just because of how funny the script already is.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the lines you deliver, every single one of them is perfect. So if that's what you were given, you were given gold, and you made palladium.
Yeah, with that show, I really tried to play the character as seriously as possible, because for me, we were talking about how much I like the original Archie comics. Very formative for me as a Canadian, and just being able to see Archie and Jughead and Betty and Veronica on their adventures, and they're like fun, like light Americana bits that end up coming up with Archie trying to fix his jalopy and stuff like that. And then Riverdale comes along, and it gives it that like dark, gritty turn to things.
Yeah.
But the essence of Archie is still comedy. I'm still playing a character named Dr. Curdle Jr. Yes. I'm operating on a man called Benjamin Button. Like, yes. There's still a nugget of comedy in there. So the way that I approach the character and the show is that it is a comedy where the joke is how serious everything is.
Oh, I love that.
So the more serious I can play the character, the funnier it ends up being.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's so true. A lot of the guests, so the normal way the podcast works is our guests are people who haven't seen Riverdale. And they'll come in and we'll have them watch Riverdale Season 6, Episode 7, and they'll have absolutely no context. And
well, I do love explaining Riverdale to people, because no matter what order I give the plot points in, it gets crazier.
Of course. But a lot of the guests tend to be asking, like, what is this show? Am I watching camp? Like, how in on the joke are they? Are they making this show cynically or sincerely? And I love that description you just gave of it, because I think that is a much more eloquent summation of something Omar and I have spent the whole pod season thus far trying to explain to people. Omar and I are both like legitimate fans of the show. We love the show, and it's difficult to explain to people who haven't like watched the whole thing and been with it that yes, it's absurd. Batshit crazy stuff is happening. But it's not done cynically. It's not done to make fun of the audience. It's not done to make fun of itself. It's not part of like an ironic heritage of television. Like, the show loves what it's doing, and that's why I love it. And I agree with you. It's like, it is a comedy. And I think it's not just Dr. Curdle Jr. He's so emblematic of the show. The whole show is a comedy where the joke is how seriously everyone making it takes it. And it's perfectly done. It's the best show. Riverdale Season 6 is the best show of television ever made.
Great. I'm glad we're chronicling it then.
Yes.
I have a question for the character of Dr. Curdle Jr., if you don't mind.
Of course.
Earlier in season 6, Dr. Curdle Jr. Calls Betty to inform her that he's found the body of one Jughead Jones.
Yes.
And Betty responds, are you upset that you didn't get invited to the wedding? Now, do you think Dr. Curdle Jr. is that kind of prankster where that's kind of like pretty like par for the course? Or was this a gross mischaracterization of Dr. Curdle Jr.'s professionalism on the behalf of Betty Cooper?
Oh, it's definitely a gross mischaracterization. However, I will also say that like that bit happened during Riverdale, which is a different world and a different people than regular Dr. Curdle Jr. and Betty's circumstances. So that I think perhaps if real world Riverdale Betty Cooper got married, Dr. Curdle would definitely be on the guest list.
I see. Okay.
100%.
So that was just another one of the horrific elements of Riverdale that you were left off of the wedding invite list.
You've got to show stakes. You've got to give the show stakes, right? So
Okay, so in episode 5, you find the body of one Jughead Jones, as Omar just said.
Mm-hmm.
And then who should show up at the morgue but another Jughead Jones?
wild.
And he tells you, don't let anyone else see this body.
Uh-huh.
Is it normal for Dr. Curdle Jr. to just take orders from Jughead?
It's not normal. No, as we know, Dr. Curdle Jr. usually requires some sort of payment.
Right.
Ideally small bills.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So, but Dr. Curdle Jr. is bribable.
Very bribable.
Okay.
I considered him one of the most reliable characters in the show, actually, because of that. Because he's so consistently bribable.
Right.
You can trust him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's such a long history of noir characters that remind me of Dr. Curdle Jr., as well as also just like the sub variant of horror that's the coroner that eats the sandwich while at work. Did you have any specific polls that you were like, oh, this is these three people, like from movies or television or even your real life?
I had a lot of polls. I did a lot of work on this. Actually, it might be worth going over just my character's origin,
Yes,
like
please.
how I got the part, because I didn't actually audition for Dr. Curdle Jr.
Uh-huh.
They just kind of gave it to me. What happened was I was working on The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, a sister show to Riverdale, same producers. I got cast as a teacher on that show, one of Sabrina and Harvey's teachers. But that scene ended up getting cut, and they ended up just like, for some reason, the original coroner in season 1, Dr. Curdle Sr., was unable to come back for season 3.
I see.
So they just kind of like moved me from one show to the other.
Wow.
Wow.
And it was incredibly freeing, like not needing to audition for this part, because my thought process was just like, well, whatever I do, I'm going to put it on television.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you just had like open
might as well
reign.
have fun with it.
Yeah.
Right? So I leaned into I did a lot of research on Dr. Curdle Jr. Additionally, because I had more time than the like day or two that you usually get when you have an audition. And so I looked into original Archie comics, that like 1950s Americana vibe. I looked into the like dark, twisted, gritty reboot vibes that they were going into in the first couple of seasons, because I had the benefit of coming in season 3. So a couple of seasons to tone check the show. And then one of my main inspirations was talking about famous coroners. Tony Todd in the Final Destination movies.
Yes.
is just so dramatic. And plus that like 1950s horror icon, like you were talking about, that coroner eating a sandwich kind of vibes. And I knew that I could go into that like more classical style of acting than just being a very modern, very nuanced character.
Right.
I could find my nuance in genre, which I really leaned into as much as possible. I think to the benefit of the show and the character that I played. because since Dr. Curdle isn't like a main character, he's really able to come in and take the scene as it is and have, and for me as the actor, just have fun with it. I think the more fun you have as an actor, the better a job you do, and the more chance you have of connecting with the audience.
I think that's so true. And I can confirm, well, obviously, he's our favorite character on the show, so it worked.
Great. Nailed it.
I love him. He's so different. Like, shout out to Prodigal Son, the show.
This is our second Prodigal Son show. I love
Prodigal Son. But Prodigal Son has a coroner character, and she feels... every coroner character is great. I love a coroner. I don't know. It's such a good role that people get to play. And just the idea of someone who spends all their time around death, I guess, is like already wild. But I feel like a lot of modern shows lean into, as a result, coroner as like quirky nerd, and which is fun. And it's fun to juxtapose that with death. But I love your choice to go back to like full noir, full genre, full creep. It's so beautiful. Do you feel like I'm not an actor, I only do improv, but it seems to me like playing a smaller role like this gives you a lot more freedom to be like full trope. Like you don't got to be a full fleshed out human being.
Basically, yeah. I when I was in Edmonton, where I was born, raised, and trained, I did a lot of theater in Edmonton. And I graduated from the University of Alberta's BFA acting program there. And in our last year, we're the company that performs in the shows at Studio Theater. And one of the shows that we got is one of the few times I ever got cast as a lead. It's a play called Black Comedy by Peter Schaefer, which is a British farce, basically, where the lights are reversed. So, like, the curtains come up and the lights are off, and the audience hears people walking around talking about this dinner party they're going to have. And then the fuse breaks, and that's when the lights come on. And the audience gets to see everyone fumbling around the stage, like trying to grab onto things and figure out where people are, as if they can't see it all.
Right. That's very funny.
It's so funny. It's honestly one of the funniest plays I've ever seen. So lucky to be a part of it. I was the lead in that show. Brinsley Miller is the character's name. And every review that came out, all of them said that I did a good job, but each one pointed up a different member of the admittedly ensemble cast as stealing the show as their character.
Yeah.
And so everyone had different preferences and ideas about like who really stole the show. And that made me realize that as a lead, you can't steal the show. No. The show is yours. It's been given to you. You need to carry the show.
Right.
Only as a side character can you steal the show.
Yeah.
And it's almost your responsibility to try.
100% it is.
I love that.
That's amazing.
If Dr. Curdle Jr. was to get a spinoff with one other character in Riverdale Season 6, who do you think it would be? Like, who's Dr. Curdle Jr.'s best friend in the town?
I mean, it's a cross between Betty and Jughead. Both of them are definitely like, he's going to be invited to Betty's wedding, right? Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Wow, Betty's his best friend? That is, I got bad news for Dr. Curdle Jr.
But I don't know as far as like a spin-off would go. I think for spin-off, we need something of like an odd couple relationship between the coroner and someone else who needs to deal with things.
Who's the opposite? What's the opposite of a coroner? Delivers babies?
Well, yes, but then I also had that thing with Baby Anthony.
That's true.
Maybe it's Dr. Curdle Jr. and Baby
Anthony. You're also not just the coroner. I am the medical professional of Riverdale.
Yeah. You're so right. So
I do have some medical questions for you later when we actually get into the show.
Of course, yes.
A side note, future, as you can edit this bit out. Do you have a hard out, Nikolai? I want to respect your time.
No.
Oh, amazing. Dangerous thing to say to us, but okay. So my dad is a doctor, and he happened to be visiting town this weekend, and I got coffee with him this morning, and I was telling him I'm going to be interviewing a TV doctor. Do you have any questions for him? And he said, yeah, I want to know, like, did you work with any medical consultants when you're up there speaking fluent medical terminology? Is it a thing that you've researched, or are you just acting lines you're given?
As much as possible, I do research. There is a barrier of knowledge in that I have no medical training.
100%, yeah.
So I don't necessarily know the intricacies of everything. But whenever I speak technical jargon, my mind always goes to like Star Trek, where like we need to recalibrate the quantum manifolds. Is like a thing that someone might say. And when you're given a line like that, whether it's medical jargon or techno jargon, the important part as an actor is not necessarily that you know what all of that stuff is and what you're talking about and like what the technical put together of all of those things are. It's more the emotional state that you're giving the person. Because if you're saying the quantum manifolds need to be recalibrated, what you're actually saying is, I'm busy. This is going to take a bit.
Right.
That's so true.
So you're saying something different. And if you're very clear on what that is, and then you can add that subtext basically on top of the techno jargon, then you're doing your job as an actor.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like, again, I'm not an actor, but I've done some acting for improv classes, and there's like acting exercises you do where you're literally saying a line of gibberish and trying to like, the teacher will give you the emotion you're heightening each time you deliver it. That makes total sense that is how it works when you're doing these jargon lines. You don't need to know what a quantum manifold is.
Right? But you find the emotional equivalent. You find the through line of what the story needs in that moment, and then you play that.
I love that so much. Speaking of playing that, I think maybe it's time we actually play the game of this podcast, which is talking about episode 14.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely,
an hour
yes.
in. We
start
going through.
And Nikolai, this is an episode you chose because you got some big juicy parts in it. And I'm so glad you did. But generally the way this works is we'll just kind of walk our way through the episode, and we'll ask you questions. And I wanted to start with the obvious first question from this episode. And this goes to both you and Dr. Curdle Jr., if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Ooh.
I've always really liked Taskmaster or Echo.
Yeah.
What's called photographic reflexes, where they can see somebody do a thing and then mimic that perfectly. I think like real world superpowers are very difficult, because if you have laser eyes in the real world where nobody else has superpowers, it kind of puts a target on you. But photographic reflexes are also something that you don't have to fight crime with.
Right.
Like, if you have photographic reflexes, you could really just be a great impressionist.
You would go to Cirque du Soleil and you'd be like, got it.
Yes, that too. That's another thing. I would get into stunts.
That's awesome. Using your photographic reflexes to be an impressionist, though, is hilarious. I love that idea. How about Dr. Curdle Jr.? What superpower? Like, if he were to manifest a superpower in Riverdale Season 6, what would it have been?
I think it would probably be something, obviously, like we're thinking as a writer here, so probably related to the dead. I think being able to like talk to the dead and like interview the dead.
Yeah, I love
to
that.
Like get into, hey, how'd you die, buddy? That kind of vibes.
And I speak with dead is the perfect medical examiner spell.
Exactly.
I don't mean to thread back a little bit too much, but if I may pitch to the table, possibly the spinoff is Dr. Curdle Jr. and Dr. Curdle Jr. from Riverdale and one of you has the ability to speak with the dead. But one is heavily entrenched in true medicine, contemporary clinical medicine, and the other is in folk medicine and toads in jars. And so there's that little tension. But
I love that, actually.
You can only ask 3 questions.
Yeah, I also love that.
Yeah, that's because I was thinking like Dr. Curdle Jr. and Cheryl as a crime-solving duo.
Oh, that's really good.
But I way prefer Dr. Curdle Jr. and Rivervale's Dr. Curdle Jr. hitting the same themes because Cheryl's kind of OP. But
very much.
Yeah, but I think that would be awesome. Just like traveling the world, solving crimes, whether medical or magical.
Oh, that's good. That's a good poster.
And then people keep confusing the two of them because they look alike.
I'm not Dr. Curdle Jr. He's Dr. Curdle Jr. I'm Dr. Curdle Jr.
I mean, while we're on this note, because this came up, this was relevant in a few prior episodes, especially with the 2 Reggies. If Dr. Curdle Jr. encountered another Dr. Curdle Jr., this is the classic clone scenario. Do you think they would fight or would they fuck?
Yeah, probably fuck.
Yeah.
I think they'd be too interested in
the scientific curiosity.
The scientific curiosity, right?
Yeah.
And he's all about death, but he's not about killing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true.
He's not evil. He's just creepy.
Exactly. He's actually one of the nicest guys in town.
Yeah. He's as far as all the people in Riverdale go. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Another way that I made that character is I intentionally made him kind of like as creepy and suspicious as possible so that he would be above suspicion.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Because in Riverdale, it's always the people you don't expect who end up having the deep, dark secret. So I made him intentionally suspicious. True. So that it's like, no, it couldn't be.
It can't be this guy.
It would be too easy. It would be too easy.
This man's playing poker with the cards facing up.
Do you have a headcanon for Dr. Curdle Jr.'s like home life? Does he date? Does he have buds?
I mean, we hardly ever get to see any of his non-work persona,
right?
But in season 5, there's a Josie and the Pussycats episode where he goes to visit Josie and the goes to see a Josie and the Pussycats show with Principal Weatherby. And I think that's probably as a jumping off point, I'd say that those two are definitely buds and that he really likes music.
Yeah. He loves Josie and the Pussycats. Obviously he does.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. Back into the episode. So much happens in this episode. Okay.
It's a power-packed episode.
There's a lot of plot.
Yeah.
Everyone's got curses. Well, not curses, because there are actual curses, but everyone's,
So I'm just going to kind of read us through the beats, and we'll stop you when we have questions, and you can stop us if any of these beats inspire thoughts in you.
Right.
So first we see Veronica and Reggie, and Veronica says, "You realize he's just using his Jedi mind tricks on you." But Reggie's like, "No, I'm full in on this Percival Pickens dude who's going to build a railroad through Pops." And unfortunately, Archie can't do anything because Percival has a full Palladium ring now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he might beat him up again.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on Percival Pickens or any of these characters? It's okay if you don't. We'll just move on.
Percival Pickens was a really great name.
Good.
One.
Great name.
And then 2, such a lovely... The villain reveal in this season, at least after we got out of Rivervale, definitely felt a lot like those CW Arrowverse shows.
Right. Yes.
Where they have the villain of the season and they slowly accumulate power and they're in town enough that we don't just need to see them in their lair, that they're able to influence the non-hero characters as well to change things and turn people against them. I really like that. I really like
Percival Pickens, yeah.
Yeah, and making him a smarmy British man is just lovely.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It's like the show, so much happens in this show that it's not a show you can usually describe as patient. Because as one previous guest described their episode, I feel like I just watched 10 movies. But the reveal of Percival's various powers is actually remarkably patient over the course of the plot. Like, we see him, we learn about the mind control, we see that he can beat Archie through figuring out the palladium weakness and also just being jacked as hell, because it turns out he boxed at Cambridge. And and then we get to see him throughout time, and that's like mind-blowing the first time you watch the season. Like, oh, he's not just like a dude. Maybe he's the devil? So I agree. He's like really well played out villain here. And
he made a palladium ring. Like, he went above and beyond. Like, he's crafting jewelry out of palladium just to get back at Archie.
That's like enchanting level 72 at least to make a palladium ring. And the three of us obviously know, but having seen all these reveals about Percival Pickens, you're now on episode 14.
Yeah.
Why do you think he wants Pops so bad?
Okay. All right. We've already gotten, well, in Riverdale, which is not Riverdale, the Archangel Raphael was like, this is the final battleground between heaven and hell.
Yeah.
So that's like something there. Like, that's gotta matter. If it doesn't matter, then what am I doing, right?
That's gonna be on our next shirt.
So obviously there's got to be some cosmic importance to Pops. For Tabitha, she gets to time travel using it as her totem.
Sure.
So clearly there's some like power there. And also they keep referring to it as like the soul of the town, the
That's
heart
true.
of the town. And he keeps seemingly wanting to like destroy that sort of. So yeah, my general thing is he wants to take out Pops to get rid of like a bunch of people's tether to whatever their idea of the town or their powers is. That's a
really reasonable take, Azzy. But thus far, no sense that it might help him gain dominion over both the living and the dead.
Fuck. No. That's cool.
See, if you're gonna watch one season of Riverdale, I'm glad it's season 6.
It's the best season of television ever made.
We need to have that on our Riverdale, like welcome to Riverdale sign. If you're gonna watch any season of Riverdale, I'm glad it's season 6.
Yeah, well, we're gonna quote you on that, Nikolai. That'll be merch. If you're gonna watch one season of Riverdale, I'm glad it's season 6. Right. That's fun. Okay, we'll keep moving. Cheryl's got a sphere of knowledge. Oh, sphere of knowledge. Yeah, should I call Heather? It's ambiguous to me whether or not it's just a normal 8-ball.
Oh yeah, that could have just been a 90s like Toys R Us 8-ball. Or
did you think it was magic when you saw it, Omar?
Well, I think it was honest. I'll say that because it says I can't really
I can't do this right now, sorry.
I think that's part of it. I think the magic 8-ball shows Cheryl her own impatience. Like, if it wasn't for, like, she's looking for an easy answer, as we all do when we go to the occult.
Of course.
But then she's confronted with what she actually wants, and that's what the 8-ball shows.
Yes.
It shows her impatience.
Yeah.
But do you think it's magic?
I think it might as well be, right?
Yeah,
All right,
like as much as anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a plot device more than anything else.
Yeah, no, of course. I think it's funny. I think it's funny, a funny image to have this witch who's thus far been capable of so many things, and she's just sitting on the couch with a magic 8-ball.
Maybe it has a soul in there.
It could.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
It could.
Well,
oh my God, that's where Jason went.
Or 8 souls. 8 souls
for
the magic 8 souls.
And you just flip
the magic 8 souls.
Yeah, 8 pool players that burned down 14 years ago.
I have a medical question for you now, Nikolai.
Yes.
Okay, so imagine you're seeing a patient. And their body seems to be generating an enormous amount of toxins, so much so that the toxins are in their tears and in their blood and in their perspiration.
Yes.
What would your medical suggestion be for this person?
Probably quarantine.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's interesting. It's also relevant that this person has been, shown to maybe kill someone with a simple kiss. Do you still want to quarantine her?
I definitely don't think she should be out running a casino or anything.
Oh, that's oddly specific. That's interesting because I feel like a lot of doctors would just suggest a strict regimen of dialysis.
Oh, yes. I mean, that would also make sense. Yeah. I assume your doctor father also prescribed that as well.
Yeah, well, when I ran the situation,
dialysis should almost certainly work.
That should be fine, right?
Yeah,
I don't think. And if she could just have a little veil over her face to make sure that nobody got too close, I think that would also be a good preventative measure.
I love that. I also loved that Dr. Curdle Jr. was wearing increasingly intense PPE every time he interacts with Veronica this episode, it feels like.
Yeah. Well, he definitely gets more evasive.
Yeah.
Did y'all film this during COVID?
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. So a lot of these, I forget exactly when COVID started, but I think it would have been during season 5, because I remember the Josie and the Pussycats episode being really nice because it was late into a Friday, early into a Saturday, watching Josie and the Pussycats play, and I was like, oh, this feels like an actual concert. I missed this.
Oh, wow.
So season 6 also would have been tail end of COVID.
Yeah. Well, then it's great that you got to have that PPE on.
Yeah, just in general. Fit in with everyone else.
Okay, some more stuff happens. Jughead's going to do some research on deep mind reading for Betty.
Yeah.
Archie starts wearing a palladium necklace, and his fists are bleeding when he's punching the bag. I did have one question for you, Nikolai. Have you seen my book on Rasputin?
Thank you. My favorite line of the whole episode.
I don't know why it would go anywhere. But it becomes very relevant.
Yeah,
it does.
By the end of it, all of the Rasputin theming, legend, ends up coming back. I also enjoyed the Superman Mighty Mouse comparison
the
that they had.
Cheese weakness.
Yeah, as Archie starts intentionally poisoning himself, but apparently not in the way that Superman did it didn't work. You got to do it more in the way that Rasputin did.
Yes.
Well, that didn't work either, actually, it turns out.
Yeah.
That still poisons some. Okay, I'm going to run you through a scenario here.
Okay.
Let's say your granddaughter is a lesbian, and she had sort of her first girl in middle school that was her best friend that she had a crush on, and then her very abusive mother basically forbade them from ever seeing each other and hid all the letters. And now your granddaughter is trying to reconnect with her and sends her an email, and it's been maybe a day, and she hasn't gotten an email in response back. Do you tell her A, hey, sweetie, it's okay, people take time to respond to emails?
Okay.
Or B, do you ask her if the whole obsession with Rasputin is merely a distraction from the fact that Heather hasn't responded to her email yet, because in your experience, people respond promptly to emails when they care?
Yeah, it's definitely got to be B.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
Then we lead that into and you march your butt over to her front door. You grab yourself a boombox, and you win back that junior high love of your life.
That's beautiful. Yeah, you actually, congratulations. You're the first guest we've had who successfully passed the grandma test.
Yeah.
I mean, Nana Rose is just an icon. I think she's more prolific than Dr. Curdle Jr. If I may.
Nana Rose, obviously, another fan fave. Nana Rose,
yes,
like Dr. Curdle Jr., crushes every single line she's given.
We have a couple awards we give out at the end of every episode, which we'll run you through, when we get to the end of them.
Okay.
We've gotten through 2 scenes so far. But the amount of times that Nana Rose has gotten flowers has just been really, honestly, very heartfelt and wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah.
Glad to hear.
As a doctor, can you confirm that if I start imagining my mind as a collection of comic books, that my subconscious mind will order my suppressed memories also into a box of dusty comic books?
Okay, see, this one is... I don't know about this one.
Okay.
Like, certainly everyone's brains are made differently, and that different people maybe categorize things in different ways.
Yeah.
One of my favorite video games is Psychonauts, which is all about going inside of people's heads and how different those heads are based on the personalities of the people involved. I think Jughead was more imposing that on someone else. is what that felt like. I think he was just like, oh, this is what works for me, so it's got to work for you. When you've got to be more curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it have helped if Betty had said something like, my subconscious is kind of run by like a Scott McCloud-esque understanding comics framework? Would that
that would have helped Jughead. But I don't know that that's what the inside of Betty's mind would look like.
No. Sorry, Azzy, I totally cut you off.
No, you're fine. And speaking of video games, Jughead goes full Alan Wake, enters the darkness, starts sorting through these comic books in Betty's mind, and then gets a bunch of visions of them just really making out.
Yeah, well, they used to date. They used to date for a long time.
Yeah.
Jugronica, I believe, was the couple name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a question. Obviously, Nikolai, you're the doctor here, so you'd be the most expert. But question for the table. So first, it's important for you to know that I did bash a cat's head in with a rock. And,
okay.
I guess my question for the table is, Daddy, did I do a bad thing?
Yeah.
You say yeah?
Yeah, my answer's yeah.
I think the cat sinned, personally. So that, for me, kind of brings it full circle. How about Nikolai?
It's just about that MAOA gene.
Yeah. Does that mean, if you know that I have the MAOA gene, does that change your answer?
I mean, yes, it does, honestly. Like, well, there's nature versus nurture, right? That's what this whole arc is about. Can we fight against our nature to be better, to move past that through different kinds of nurture? And I think we just learned a lot about how difficult that was for Betty.
Yeah.
Because not only was it in her nature, she was being nurtured that way as well. So it really adds a lot of stakes as to can she possibly move past this, move past not only what she was born with, but what she was raised with.
Yeah, she was being groomed to be a serial killer, we find out in this episode. It's very sad.
Yeah. I would go so far as to say Betty's dad's not a great person.
No.
I was on the fence about him until this episode, and now you finally won me over. I don't think he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's such a dud.
Okay, we have to move forward, unfortunately. We now return to Reggie, who we've now found out is a 6'2", 200-pound jellyfish. And
yes,
I had another medical question for you, Nikolai. Let's say you've seen the X-ray of a 6'2", 200-pound jellyfish, and you find that there is simply Swiss cheese where the brain is supposed to be. What's your medical prognosis?
Somebody put Swiss cheese in this jellyfish.
That's the right answer. Are you sure you're not a real doctor? You said you don't have medical training, but you're killing it so far.
I don't have medical training, but like,
you don't need it.
I've been on TV enough that I know I could probably do an autopsy.
Amazing. And now we get back to one of your great scenes here. You're with Veronica Lodge, and her latest toxicology panel has shown that the toxins in her body have increased.
Oof.
And it's flabbergasting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dialysis should work.
Dialysis should have worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She got that fresh blood.
I'm wondering if you see, based on this toxicology panel, like, how do you see this ending for Veronica?
From what I can tell, she's gonna die.
Yeah.
She's not gonna make it. No one can live with that much toxin inside their bloodstream and eyes and nose and everywhere.
I agree. I don't see how
Just
it
like
ends other than with her succumbing to the very toxins her body is producing. Personally,
that's a very good way to put it. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Omar, Azzy, any other takes though? We'll get a second opinion. Do you think Veronica's going to succumb to the very toxins her body's producing?
I mean, I'm not the medical practitioner here at the table, but like, sort of, I spend a lot of time in Australia.
Okay.
And I feel like their answer to like a lot of things like snake bites and stuff is drink milk.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Veronica's lactose intolerant, but that's probably what I would have done. Is I would have been like maybe a liter of milk.
Just drink some milk
I think
about it.
They all drink too many milkshakes to be lactose intolerant.
That's very true.
That's actually the cornerstone
my
of the
diagnosis
show.
is Pops. Go to Pops.
Oh, go to Pops.
Go to
Have
Pops.
12 milkshakes.
Yeah.
It is a place of cosmic significance that, at least in one form of the universe, has been christened with the very tears shed by the Virgin Mary at the crucifixion. So
yeah, maybe have a Pops milkshake out of a Holy Grail. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
That's alchemy of sorts, maybe.
You know what? Actually, I think that's crazy, Omar. Where are you going to get a Holy Grail?
I'm
Take
sorry.
me seriously.
How about you, Azzy? How would you treat this patient?
She seems like fine right now, honestly. Like, she's like, as long as she's not touching people or spitting on them,
Yeah.
like, she's doing fine. Like, if somebody comes in with a snake bite, they start presenting with symptoms pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I feel like if she had that many toxins in her systems and it was gonna do something, I feel like I'd be worried about it now.
Yeah.
But she's kind of fine.
She's
so
kind of
like,
fine.
I guess my medical opinion is, nah, it's fine.
Perfect.
And we got to blast through these plot points, but just tangentially, I was just... Rabies scares me so much. I occasionally forget about rabies for like 5 years, and then I remember and I'm like, that's wild that this is a real thing.
Do you want some deep Sarah lore here?
Have you had rabies?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But I did.
Okay.
I spent a summer in college in rural Uganda teaching at an elementary school there. It was like a voluntourism thing I was doing. And we had taken in a stray cat at the volunteer house, a little kitten. And okay, one day the cat wasn't eating, so someone put the cat in a bowl of chicken stew. It was a very small cat. And it got covered in chicken stew. And then when I found it, there were ants all over it. And so I was like, so I was washing it. I was giving it a bath and it bit me and it drew blood.
Okay.
And a week
later, it's a vampire?
A week later, the cat dies of mysterious, unknown reasons.
Oh my God.
And I start reading everything there is to read about rabies.
Yeah.
I end up going to a hospital. I have to take a 40-minute bus ride to the nearest hospital, and it's empty. I feel like I'm in an episode of Riverdale. I'm wandering this empty hospital. The front door was unlocked, so I walked in. The lights are all off. There's no one here.
Yeah.
And after like 40 minutes of wandering, I find a nurse, and she's like, "Why are you here?" And I said, "I got bitten by a cat and the cat died." And the nurse was like, "Oh, that's really bad. The cat might have rabies. You should get a rabies shot." And I said, "I know. That's why I'm at the hospital." And she said, "The hospital is closed on Sundays." And
of course.
but you really need to get that shot, like as soon as you can. And I took that 40-minute bus ride back to the volunteer house, just going fucking insane, and ended up cutting my trip short and flying to America and getting 4 shots of rabies immunoglobulin right into the finger.
Wow.
The whole flight back, because I was like, I don't know how much you know about rabies, Nikolai. I assume you know a lot because you're a doctor. What's really terrifying about rabies? It's a virus.
You don't know, right?
It's a virus that slowly climbs its way up your nerves until it reaches your brain.
Yeah.
And it can take anywhere from like 2 weeks to 2 years to complete that journey. And once you start manifesting symptoms, it's too late and you're going to be dead within 24 hours.
Yeah. So that's what you were thinking the whole flight back from Uganda?
Yeah, that whole flight back from Uganda, I was just like, do I have a headache? Am I feeling anxious? Or are these rabies symptoms? And will I be dead?
One time, when I was flying to Minnesota, I turned a certain way when I was putting my bag away, and I thought I broke my leg, and I sat there on the plane, and I was like, I don't think I'll be able to get up when they like say like, all right, now go to Minnesota. But I stood up, and I was able to use my knee, and I was like, I think I'm just in my mid-30s. I think everything just hurts every time I move.
Yeah. Anyway,
you know what also hurts
divergence
is when Archie does anything nowadays, because he's been palladium poisoned.
True. He poisoned himself because he's wearing that stupid rock. Omar,
would you have recommended this treatment, or would you have recommended any alternative?
I mean, I think we got to do what the only reasonable thing is and look to Rasputin.
Yeah. That sounds medically sound to me.
In the background of the scene where Cheryl
That's
is
a good
reading,
question, Azzy. I was going to bring this up. Thank you.
Okay,
Don't spoil it. Because I do want to ask our cast who might not have noticed, what do you think Cheryl's persona would be?
Wait, I don't know if I picked up on this.
I was blown away.
You don't spend enough time in trans girl discords, because if you did, you would have immediately keyed in on this.
There's in the background of Cheryl reading Rasputin, she's got some like DeviantArt fan fiction, like
she painted it herself, Azzy.
Probably.
Of Cheryl?
Of Cheryl
as an animal.
As a fox. She has a big fox head.
I was going to see if they would guess, but it's over
a
now.
Fox would have been my guess.
Oh, I'm sorry. I ruined it. I told you not to spoil it, so I could set up the question that I then spoiled myself. I suck as a podcast host.
This is a Jughead paradox.
Just one big Jughead paradox.
I'd argue it's more of a Jughead anomaly, personally.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, good for her. Is the painting nice?
Yeah, it's beautiful. My note is just Fox Girl Cheryl.
Yeah, Fox Girl Cheryl.
That's amazing.
I was watching this episode with a friend, and she went, "Hey, look in the background," and there's been several times during the production of this podcast where I've looked at something and I felt like my brain just refused to register.
sort of like your eyes started bleeding and your mind snapped in two, maybe.
Yeah, like if the Archangel Raphael exposed his true biblically accurate form to me as a police deputy. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, Azzy. But now, Nikolai, are you ready for round 2 of So My Dad's a Serial Killer and Tried to Make Me One Too?
Definitely am. I feel like I'm going to get it this time.
Awesome. Great. That's it. All you had to do is be ready. So
you're batting 100 so far with these questions.
Did Dr. Curdle Jr. feel left out when he wasn't invited to the White Worm to get drinks with Veronica, Archie, and Betty?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, because he wants to be in the Core 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did as character work is, I'm trying to find your character's objective, their goal. And certainly in every individual scene, my goal is to give Jughead or Betty clues as they come up. But my overall goal is to really just be in the group of the mystery team.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he wanted, because he's he's on the edge. Mm-hmm. He's on the edge. They come to him for stuff.
He's one of the Scoobies.
And he just wants to come in. So obviously it hurts when everyone dealing with their hard days goes out for drinks and does
Yeah,
it about
because
him.
you're dealing with the bodies.
Yeah,
You're also dealing with their diagnoses. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's so. I feel you. On that note, this isn't a drama podcast, so we're not fishing for drama here. But how much time did you spend like interacting with the other actors, and did you have anyone that you particularly enjoyed hanging out with?
Oh, sure. To spill some on-set tea, I mostly spent time with Lily and Cole, and I liked them both. Yeah, Cole and I talked about video games pretty often.
Nice.
That's
And
amazing.
it was really lovely. And then just being able to like come in and see the same crew members as well, and feel welcomed back with my own little morgue set.
Did it? Because the scenes that you're in are genuinely creepy. Like, there's a lot of like fun, like subgenre stuff going on, or accent drama stuff going on. But like, they're all very creepy scenes, and quite often there is a body on the slab.
Thank you.
Did
Yes.
you? Was it like? Did it feel? Was there a transition? Well, I mean, maybe my question is, was it kind of like lights, camera, action? It's all been kind of like, let's go, let's shoot this creepy scene. Let's, we're in the mood. Or were you like having fun and laughing before, and then like action, like, okay, and now this is a terrible thing that's happened, and this body has just shown up from the river.
I definitely crack jokes.
Yeah, I love that.
And as people are setting up and working throughout, I mean, as long as we're not doing anything where anyone needs to be emotionally in specific malleable states where we know the lines and we're running through doing our work as actors with each other while the camera and lights and sound I'll do their work as well. That's I always like having fun and then being able to settle into the characters and interacting both as characters and as real human beings that we are.
Totally.
And when you're having fun on set, like it trickles down and it makes things easy. Days are already so long, so why not make things easier for that?
That makes me so happy, because now I get to like imagine what is history, which is historical, of like hanging out and just having a good time, checking up on people, and be like, okay, anyway, let's get serious. La Llorona is trying to steal your baby.
Yeah. Well, no, wait, Omar. That's crazy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you sure that she wasn't just having a hysterical pregnancy?
It's a good point. Yeah, I might have been wrong on that. My apologies.
Okay.
Can we talk about this scene in the bar real quick?
Oh yeah, where Veronica's taking shots.
How are you not tipsy?
Well, so they're nearing the end of this. It's like the middle of this scene, and Veronica is listing all these things that suck about being toxic.
Yeah,
and then she's like, the worst part of all is my last meaningful human connection was a kiss with like backstabbing Reggie Mantle.
Yes.
And I went, she's gonna kiss Archie. And I heard my friend Hen, who I was watching this with, who had seen this episode before, just snicker.
Shout out Hen.
And big shout out Hen. Just snicker, and I went, oh boy, she's gonna kiss Archie.
Yeah. Well, she is now a member of the Sad Superhero Club, so I feel like that's kind of one big polycule.
Everyone gets a kiss.
Everyone gets a kiss when you're a part of the Sad Superhero Club.
Yeah.
So I was both excited and it was just a lot.
Azzy, enough wallowing. Sorry. I have a medical question for Dr. Curdle Jr.
My bad.
Let's say you're encountering a patient. He might be roughly 6'1", 6'2". You know him as generally a strong type. Imagine him maybe as a boxer or a construction worker.
Okay,
and
a folk hero.
Yeah, folk hero. A folk hero is a good description. And previously he was around like 230 pounds, and he's just dropped down to 135, and his beautiful natural red hair has started falling out. What do you think these symptoms are suggestive of? How would you diagnose this hypothetical patient?
Yeah, I would say stop drinking palladium.
Oh, okay.
Stop it.
The idea of Dr. Curdle Jr. snapping at Archie in this is like, I deal with a lot, okay? I have a woman who's turning into a spider. I'm fine with that, okay? The serial killer Jr., I'm fine with that. But Archie, why are you drinking this murky water?
So Archie drops an off-screen reference to Dr. Curdle. He says, Dr. Curdle said my symptoms suggest acute anemia. Is that a scene that was filmed and cut? Or did you never get the chance to suggest acute anemia?
No, that was just a reference in the script. We never filmed that scene. I had a couple of scenes with Archie, and I've had a couple of scenes that have been filmed that haven't made it to camera, just like editing entire episodes together time. But no, I didn't specifically have a scene where I told him about the acute anemia. I assume it would happen where I'm taking off all of the stuff I had to put on to talk to Veronica.
Sure. Oh, Archie, it's you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay, I can take all of this off. And then he's like, I'm not feeling well. And then I just start to put it back on again.
Medically, would you think it's feasible that the palladium he's been drinking has neutralized the other metals in his body?
Is that something that I say?
No, this is what Dr. Cheryl says.
Oh, that's what Dr. Cheryl says.
Yeah.
Yes, but she suggests it as a feasibility and then tells Archie to rebalance his humors while he consults her medical texts.
That's right. And he is running low on iron. I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, so not to jump ahead, but kind of like to continue through this plot line before like we sort of lose that beat. Medically speaking, is it hard to turn like an amount of palladium in someone's body into iron in order to make them strong?
Yeah, to sort of forge them.
Or is that like kind of like, with today's technology, it's kind of like just a Tuesday afternoon?
No, not with today's technology. You'd probably have to go back to something ancient and dark.
Oh, interesting. I mean, medically, do you think you'd have access to maybe an ancient spell of transmutation?
Medically? No, I deal with frogs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair. Okay, that's interesting.
So, really, it would be out of my depth.
Yeah. Well, if you stick a frog in a baby's mouth and it could suck out the colic, it's possible that a frog could suck out the palladium, right?
I mean, yes. What would we need? I think we would need metal frogs for that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So which brings you back to Cheryl.
That does bring you back to Cheryl. I guess it is true that even though alchemists failed to create a spell that could turn letter iron into gold, they were able to turn gold back into letter iron. Now that I think about it, I mean, palladium's just white gold, right?
Yeah.
So I think it seems medically conceivable that you could use an ancient spell of transmutation to forge Archie.
Yeah, by like associative language.
Yeah, by like the medical power of association. we can.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I'm gonna prescribe you a serious regimen of A to C.
Yeah. I'm sad that the scroll caught fire. I'm always sad anytime like a magical item gets burned.
Do you think that was a magical item? I thought she just kind of wrote it down for him to read.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past Cheryl Blossom to jot down something on an ancient scroll and just be like, anyway, read this. You're not getting anywhere near my books.
I don't think she has any paper in her house that isn't like ancient parchment and like human.
Yeah, you're right.
That is true.
Yeah, I was wondering if she had to like do the thing where you dip it in tea to change the color.
I think
take a lighter to the edges to make it a little like a pirate map.
It was originally a college ruled notebook, but she made it work.
I mean, are we saying Cheryl wouldn't take the effort to make it aesthetic?
That's all people doing all day.
No, absolutely she would. If she did not have the parchment on hand, she would. Yes.
I one time swung by Cheryl's house and I asked Cheryl, "Do you have a book on spiders?" And a giant spider swung by the fireplace.
That's interesting. Well, how many did she give you?
I'm trying to remember. For me, I asked for a waterproof one so I could read it in the bathtub.
That's cool. I was just at Cheryl's house because she's the only person I know who grows poisonous plants in her garden.
That's right.
On that note, Nikolai, remember that hypothetical patient from earlier who had all the toxins in their body?
Yes.
Once dialysis hasn't worked, how do you think about like you're a doctor, so I know you believe in Western medical science and in frogs. Would it upset you if your patients started seeking alternative medical treatments, like reading about spiders in the bath while snacking on, I don't know, maybe like hemlock, nightshade, snake root, rosary peas, and white oleander?
I mean, I would never recommend that. If only because if you're borrowing someone's book and you're taking it into the bath, if you drop it, you're gonna be in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. But
that's good medical practice.
Would you recommend?
Also, don't eat 5 poisons at once, please.
Oh, okay. Okay. But what if they just look like tasty little leaves?
Yeah.
Hey, stuff can look delicious, right?
Mhm.
We all remember Tide Pods.
We do.
Don't eat Tide Pods.
Yeah.
Or other poison things.
Do you hear that, children listening? Do you hear that, Zach Oyama specifically? You've heard it here from Dr. Curdle Jr. Don't eat Tide Pods.
Yeah.
Boy, that is a reference to a 7-year-old college humor sketch.
That's a college humor sketch.
So
I've seen it.
Yeah, but I know Zach, and Zach, seriously, please stop eating Tide Pods.
It's not good for you.
That's so true. I'm sorry. But Zach, if you do keep eating Tide Pods, just remember there's no shame in having your stomach pumped.
Yes.
We've got to fast forward a little bit.
Yes. Do you mind if I hop to
please,
a quick little bit?
Just jump us forward.
Great. They pulled up the floorboards in Betty's house. There's a dead body underneath it.
I don't think that's that important of a side plot here. What do you think?
Wait,
what do you think, Nikolai?
I think it's worth a conversation with your mom.
Yeah.
Speaking of Betty's mom, would you feel comfortable reading Betty's mom's mind if Betty gave you permission?
No, that's not.
Is that not how consent works?
That's not how consent works.
Okay, agree to disagree.
This episode just really furthered my whole Alice Cooper just kind of sucks agenda. Whether or not she's the victim of mind control or she just does a lot of things that are kind of lame.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you didn't even see all the stuff with the farm. So.
Oh God, you didn't.
Yeah. I've heard rumors and whispers.
She had to talk to her fake son. Okay, I have a question for you. Medically, would you say that dying is a pretty significant side effect?
Yes, death is definitely a significant side effect.
Okay.
It is something that should be considered before trying any treatment,
including sort of ancient alchemical forging ceremonies.
Yes, but
okay,
you got to do what you got to do.
I'm glad I asked for a second opinion because the last person I asked about this didn't want to bring that up.
It took me to the catacombs.
Yeah. We are getting to the end. We are getting to the end of the episode here, and I just real quick. Would you mind reading an alchemical spell while I manifest witchfire inside of you?
As long as it's on some parchment.
Yeah, it's on parchment.
Great. Yeah, the parchment is pretty essential.
Okay.
My eyes aren't great, so
good. We'll do that after we record the pod. And I just want to pause here to point out that this episode of Riverdale Season 6, the podcast, is sponsored by Smart Food and Canva.
Canva, thank you.
Nice shout out to Canva.
Sponsorship.
So Veronica and Archie make out.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps Veronica get her main character energy back, which I think is nice because she's been separated from the core crew for the whole season thus far.
Yeah.
Doing her own casino thing. Betty seems pretty excited to get cucked by Veronica, and I am happy for them.
Yeah.
Look,
my roommate celebrated this moment. My roommate was just like, good for them.
Look, I'm in a polyamorous relationship, and I'd be lying if I said I've never been in the same house as my girlfriend having sex with other people. And, it's not, I think like Betty, it's not like that it's my fetish to get cucked. I think it's more that like Betty, I can feel compersion for my partner and my best friend.
Yes.
Being able to make out when my best friend is cursed with sort of an inherent toxicity that would make her a danger to anyone except for my invulnerable boyfriend.
Yes.
I don't mind. I personally don't mind a little bit of toxic, or maybe a lot of bit of toxic, if it's Britney Spears' Toxic being performed to not really save the casino, but to kind of as a sign of power.
Yeah.
It almost seemed like it was part of a board meeting.
Yeah,
it did. Yeah, 100%.
That's an interesting point. Now that I think about it, performing Toxic would be like a great way to deliver a message to a board that's trying to oust you from your casino.
Especially with a giant spider in the back.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
And Archie's little dance where he does the arm towards the camera.
His dad dance.
It's so good.
Archie's dance is amazing. I don't know why. This might be an insane thing I'm about to say.
Okay.
When Archie is mouthing the words to Toxic, that's the first time I've looked at that actor and thought, oh, you are Australian.
Well, I believe he's Kiwi. So.
Well, then that is insane of me to think. How insulting.
You strike me as a man from Perth, KJ Appa.
I don't know why. It like.
Yeah, I think that we've never seen an American do that before. A United States
that might
American.
be it. He is Kiwi.
I've never seen an American dance to Toxic by Britney Spears.
He is from Auckland. Shout out to my college roommate, Stephen Macarith, about to finish his PhD in logic and math at the University of Pittsburgh. Also from Auckland. Maybe they know each other. There's only like 4 million people in that country.
I do know someone from New Zealand, and they did know each other.
Great.
Yeah. Nikolai, do you have a go-to karaoke song, and would you use it to like save a casino or Pop's Diner if it was being like threatened?
Yeah, what would your song be?
I would use it to save Pop's Diner.
Yeah.
I don't know about saving a casino. It seems very strange to me that a casino can't break even.
If Dr. Curdle Jr. is going to have to perform a song or a serpent dance or whatever Dr. Curdle's equivalent is to save his morgue, what would it be?
So he would probably sing Thriller. I mean, that's probably the expected thing.
Yeah. Perfect.
Or a Josie and the Pussycats number, like any
fan.
Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah.
And what would Nikolai Witschl sing?
I don't know. I don't tend to do. I find karaoke weird. To TBH, and this is a weird ism that I have.
Yeah.
I'm like I because I listen to. I'm just like, oh, do they have any Jose Gonzalez?
Right.
Do they have, like the stuff I listen to is not karaoke-ish.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Fair enough.
So,
for reference, that's a Swedish singer-songwriter I'm discovering.
Yeah.
You listen to a lot of Swedish indie folk?
I mean, Dottie Freyer is brilliant.
That definitely does answer our question, I think.
Yeah, it's also the fact that you could name a second one is insane to me. It's canon on this podcast that the only piece of pop culture I've ever consumed is Riverdale Season 6. Yeah. So I only know songs that have been sung by the cast in various attempts to save places.
Well, maybe if there's another season, we can get some of those. Some of those sang from the rooftop of Pops.
So true. And boy, I'm so sad that this episode's coming to an end, Nikolai. You're such a pleasure. And we have some awards we'd love for you to give out if you don't mind.
Okay.
Our first guest, Oscar Montoya, gave us the titled Sin Pie Award. And this award goes out to the person who ate the entire slice of sin pie in this episode, left no crumbs, just killed it at their scenes. We've never said this to anyone before on the podcast, but you can give this to yourself.
I would never. It's about her, so I gotta give it to Camila Mendez. Veronica. I don't often have scenes with Veronica, but as I was working with Camilla to do those scenes, it was really like alive and sparky, and I really enjoyed playing with her.
Yay!
So.
Amazing!
Oh, that's so great.
Camilla, Veronica, congratulations on your slice of Sin Pie. And now we move to the Ross Bryant Notice Me Senpai Award. Who in this episode, and you can answer both as yourself and as Dr. Curdle if you'd like, who would you most like to notice you?
Nana Rose.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times she's won this award, and she deserves it every time.
I want her to notice me. I'm so sad that she and I never had a passing scene together. But I mean, we are important themes in two separate sides of the show, so that makes sense a little bit.
Can we throw out maybe? Okay, you know what? Actually, scrap my earlier idea. There's always a better idea. Dr. Curdle Jr. and Nana Rose.
Yes, that's the perfect duo.
That's the spinoff. You can speak with the dead, and she can do divination.
Beautiful.
She can tell you how many twins you're gonna have. Yeah.
Our next award is the Dan Lippert Prediction Award, where normally we ask our guests to make a prediction about what's coming up in the season. But given that I'm gonna modify it, and I'd like to hear the Nikolai Witschl Epilogue Award. What's Dr. Curdle up to?
I think is this post season 7 we're talking about here?
7, or yeah, just how do you imagine this? Is he having a happy life? Is he?
Yeah, I think he's got his own little Addams family. Is how I picture it.
Oh my god, yes.
It's either a husband or a wife. I'm not sure which, and just some very creepy kids.
Yes.
And some sort of disembodied hand they brought back to life or something.
Awesome. It's really along the lines of Addams Family.
It's literally the Addams the Curdle
yes.
The Curdle family.
Don't go any further. We'll get sued.
Oh god, I'm so sorry. And Omar, our last award here.
Yeah, we have the Britannia Award, which is the award for the moment where, in this episode, where you had to stop and go, I'm sorry, what? Can you explain that to me again?
I think to modify this, if you have one for this episode, that's great. I'd also like to know what side you were given, what script, what line most were you okay, I need explanation for what I'm about to say.
Okay. I was pretty good at finding context for all of the things that I needed to say.
You're a professional, Nikolai. You're a professional.
Right? I could do that. The most Britannia moment for me was one that we didn't touch on in our recap.
Okay.
And it's the moment when the doors open and Cheryl Blossom sees Heather for the first time.
Heather, is that really you?
Yeah. You're right.
And you were just, what about that was confusing?
Not confusing, just in awe. I don't know if I did that correctly.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, that's
in
perfect.
Awe is wonderful.
It's the camera and the symmetry and the costuming.
Yes,
it's beautiful.
In that moment, really just stuck with me.
Your answer leads you to more questions, and it's a beautiful moment. Is there a Dr. Curdle Award that you would like us to introduce into this already stack of cups that we have at the end of each episode?
I think there definitely should be a Dr. Curdle Award. Which is for the line that is played the most seriously.
I love that. I love that.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, that's the best. That's the perfect Dr. Curdle Award.
It may be something that we need to seed a little bit beforehand because it's tough to come up with individual lines in the moment.
Sure.
But
that's the perfect Dr. Curdle Award. And Nikolai, you're the perfect Dr. Curdle Jr. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. It's been such an honor to talk with you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. If folks want to find out more stuff from you, where could they find you? What are some things you're up to? Where are some places you'd like to be followed in terms of social media?
Yeah, probably the best would be Instagram. I have the Nikolai Witschl Library of Facts, which is a self-curated autobiographical museum and library.
Amazing.
It's perfect.
Otherwise known as an Instagram page.
We didn't even touch on this, but Nikolai comes from a long line of Canadian artists. Yes, I did my research, and your Instagram page, it does honor to your legacy.
Thank you.
Of course. It's been so great. Azzy, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at I Need Azrael, Azrael. You can go follow the podcast at Riverdale 6 Pod. And you can go there to find all our links to other things that we might have up by the time this episode comes out.
Yes. I'm Sarah Kaplan. You can find me on Instagram at Sarah Rose Kaplan. I mostly just promote improv and this podcast, but you can hang out with me there. And also, occasionally, you might see me streaming a little bit of Wikipedia D&D on the F and Funny channel.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And I'm Omar Najam. You can find me at Omar Najam Film on Instagram. And also, speaking of effing funny, hopefully at this point I will have been running a couple episodes of the 1v1 show we're doing, where it's 2 GMs, 2 players, but it's only 2 people, so we're both being the GM and the player at the exact same time, which hopefully at this point is absolute chaos. So go check that out and support your local medical professionals, folks.
Yeah.
It's a hard gig.
Support your local coroner. And Nikolai, we have a traditional outro we do for this podcast where we just pause for an awkward length of time and then deliver one rapid bye. But would you, as Dr. Curdle Jr., have any interest in closing out this episode?
Happily. Good evening, all you listeners. And good... Bye.